nuclearproctologist.org, and we are streaming live from our cell phone. And so I can't set up a stream for the nuclear shows we've been doing for a decade on any of my browsers or my computers, but I can do it from my cell phone. So let's do a show from my cell phone. I've been struggling for several days to resolve. Looks like we got hacked, and we got a poll tonight to reflect that. Did the nuclear industry hack my system in desperation to stop people from exposing their crimes? It's kind of a wide margin. And so Japan had a major meltdown. I just want to check with people to make sure my audio is okay. It looks like there's me and myself and one more person watching. And so Japan had a major nuclear meltdown that dwarfs all other reactors worldwide. And you're talking about, this was equal to 40 Chernobyls in fuel tonnage or more, but because Fukushima was pure uranium, pure plutonium, it's a totally different inventory that we're talking about. And Chernobyl was a graphite reactor, so still really bad. And they closed 9,400 farms in Ireland, Scotland, United Kingdom. And I was just hoping anybody can tell me whether my audio was okay. I don't think I can change it anyway, but just to make sure, and it would make me feel better if I got some feedback on that. And so Chernobyl was a terrible, but I mean, it's nothing. And so what they've been doing for 12 years is claiming Chernobyl, a single brand new reactor that was 2 years old, was using graphite with a fraction of the fuel compared to Fukushima's reactors. Each reactor in Japan had around 6 reactor cores in each fuel pool because they don't have a repository anywhere on the planet. And hi, everybody. Thank you, everyone. Again, I'm just hoping that the audio is good. I don't know because I can't check it myself. Hi, Joe. 239 joint. Adam. Inderpete, P. Hag, Colette, and everybody else. Is the audio okay for everybody? Let's keep talking. And so Chernobyl was graphite, which is really bad, but Japan's reactors were pure uranium plutonium fuel. Corey, hi Corey, thank you. Yeah, sounds great, guys, folks, girls, everybody, thank you. That makes me feel better. Okay, so Fukushima, sounds great from your end, Adam. Okay, let's get on with the show. And so they hacked my, it looks like they hacked my operating systems. We've been doing this for 12 years straight, and we've never experienced this before. Japan was making claims they're going to dump the tanks into the ocean. Now the buildings were all destroyed. The tanks were built to manipulate the population, and so it's kind of weird for me to not be able to show you the documentation as we're talking, because that's how we run an educational program typically. And right now we're just trying to keep the conversation going. So what happened in Japan was 4 reactors and 8 fuel pools. What happened in Chernobyl was a single new reactor with no fuel pools. And fuel pools are so significant because they have decades of reactor cores. And decades of reactor cores is not a game because they've already gone through chain reaction. And so the emissions from the meltdown are just from the fuel rods themselves, which are always hemorrhaging radiation into the environment. is 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. And of course, there's nothing on the planet that has an autoimmune trigger that can defend against it. And as such, everybody's very vulnerable to it. All species, all mammals, animals, insects are incredibly vulnerable to this type of poison. The reactors are still melting down, and what's left of them, what didn't blow up and release the plumes that covered the planet. And so the studies of the average plume was around 15 to 30 days, the plume covered the entire planet. So think of a snowstorm where the snow never melts, and after about 20, 30 days, the whole planet is covered in a snowstorm. And it never stops snowing, and the snow never melts. So then flip that and call each snowflake a isotope, an atom of man-made anthropogenic radiation. And so each isotope can pulse energy, and not can, but does pulse energy in every direction in a circle, like a normal explosion you would expect. So it throws this energy at almost the speed of light. And it does this, each atom will do that every second for millions of years. And that causes a huge amount of problems for all the species that has no autoimmune defense against this. This is why we have terrorist laws. And so the radiation has now sent the planet into a spiral. Not only that, because it's invisible snowstorm covering the entire planet of radiation, just pulsing energy every second, we are seeing this affect the ecosystem dramatically, and by proxy then the weather. And so we kill the bases of the food chain, the oxygen chain, the carbon sequestering chain in the ocean. And what that done is the ocean didn't regulate itself any longer, and the species, the food chain was broken in the species. And so we're seeing hurricanes, cyclones, and typhoons, for instance, that are coming ashore at speeds over 200 miles per hour. Wind speed. Now, we don't have infrastructure anywhere on the planet that can handle those kinds of wind. And so the big question is, do people rebuild their homes into places where this has landed? Because you're almost guaranteed in the near future to get a similar storm coming through. And in the Atlantic, not just the Pacific, but in the Atlantic, 3 years ago, we seen 5 hurricanes in the United States that came ashore. All of them were over 200 mile per hour winds, sustained. And so what happens is the system now is dysfunctional, and it's getting worse. The species are on their way out, and humanity is faced with up to 1,800 diseases from the radioactive fallout, something that's unimaginable to the common person who has been lulled into complacency for all these years. And we're seeing a tipping point happen now where we're getting thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of whales showing up emaciated at the end of their migratory routes, which mean they traveled 10,000 miles or so and didn't find the food. And so they go from 12 inches of blubber to 2 or 3 inches of blubber. And when we hear about it, we're only hearing about 10%. So when we hear about 1,000 or say 100 beak whales off the United Kingdom where they don't belong being found, that means around 1,000 beak whales have died. And so the industry has a lot of propaganda. And so when you talk about polar whale, they say, oh, it's not unusual for polar whales to come ashore in groups. And in one way, it's a little tiny bit true, but generally it's a phenomenon since the nuclear testing began. But we're also seeing this phenomenon expanded to right whales, to humpback whales, to gray whales. Over 10,000 died since 2016. And of course, there's around 1,200 ship strikes, not actual deaths, but ship strikes in Wales recorded since 1978. But the media has amplified that narrative in order to drown out the reality. The nuclear industry has come in with a machete and hacked everything that was trying to have a conversation. And it's quite bizarre that I have the only live educational program in history, let alone currently, of nuclear. And over the last couple of days, we noticed we couldn't stream, but now we can't even set up a stream. And so this stream is from my cell phone, which so far seems to be unaffected. And so I'm reaching out to everybody to let everybody know that I'm actively trying to resolve some of this. I contacted YouTube today. YouTube in the chat. You have a chat in your on your site, so I was actually able to get hold of chat. Now I don't know if it's YouTube or the industry, and they said everything was good on their end, but of course it's not good on my end. They suggested I clean up my cache, which I do multiple times every day anyway, and they suggested I use different browsers and different computers if possible, and I done that. And no matter which browser or computer I used, I still wasn't able to launch a stream. And so I posted a short video this morning of a screen captures of my desktop articulating what that issue actually is. And you can't use a VPN on my operating system. You can't add. My operating system is a very expensive, unique system, and you can't add anything to the system. The system is a standalone system, and so I can't actually add a VPN, virtual private network, to my system. And as such, it's... so it looks like they hacked my computers, my laptops, for instance, right? That I'm normally using for the stream. They actually hacked that, and some way or another, like I done a little video on it this morning to explain it, was that your normal dialog boxes for setting up a live show are disengaged. They don't show up, and so you can't set up a live stream, let alone. And so I'm thinking about reinstalling the operating system, but it's a very, 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 it's a very expensive, complicated system that I have. And I don't think it's the system as much as I think it, now I don't know for sure. This is just conjectures, total opinion. I'm assuming that we got some universities or some major institutions of the nuclear industry that has a hack for YouTube and are using it against me. Okay, so let me go back and talk about Fukushima for a few minutes. So Fukushima's contamination has covered the planet. It done it pretty well within a few weeks, and it has never stopped falling out. The media and the nuclear industry has been actively engaged in a disinformation campaign, and a successful one at that, for 12 years. And so what I'm trying to do is do an educational program so we can actually have a conversation, because we gotta have a conversation. Right? We can't leave it in the hands of a rogue industry like the nuclear degenerate industry is, because that's a rogue industry which has contempt in all intents and purposes against us and the species. And they've been growing food. It's hard to comprehend what I'm about to tell you if you're not familiar, is that they've been growing food in a nuclear wasteland, which is 14 prefectures in Japan, was banned by 55 countries for a decade. So that quantifies the assertions it's a nuclear wasteland, and nuclear doesn't go away. And so you never stop shipping millions of pounds of lethal radioactive food worldwide. And because your immune system has no trigger to defend against it, your body attacks it. Insects, birds, mammals, animals, it doesn't matter, humans. Your body acts as if it's under siege. And then again, your body can't defeat the radiation. It's not like a flu, or it's not like you cut your finger, where your body would flood the area with white blood cells and repair it. This is a permanent injury. And because it pulses energy every second, so all the insects and birds and mammals and animals and humans and everything, it's in their body, it's pulsing energy, and your body has to do repair all the damage every second that it creates, and at the same time try to build a sarcophagus around it to contain it. We call that a tumor. But there's up to 1,800 diseases and illnesses and autoimmune deficiencies and injuries can manifest before cancer shows up. Cancer is just one of the many, many diseases. Hi, Dana. Hi, everybody. Neil. And so I'm trying to just bring a little bit of normalcy back into this narrative, because I realize I can stream from my cell phone. And this is the first chance we got to stream. Now, so last night I posted a video showed up it was a 1-hour video from the studio. And that video took over 22 hours to upload. So try to wrap your mind around that. And so some people were suggesting that I just shoot the video and upload it, but it's not as simple as that. And because the files are so huge, and I don't have software to convert it reliably into another format. So in desperation, I uploaded. That took over 22 hours to upload a single video that was only 1 hour long. And so we'll figure out something over the next little while. But YouTube says there's nothing wrong on their end. And where does that leave me? Really, like where does that leave me and you, you know? And so what I'm trying to do is continue the conversation. Unfortunately, we've got to talk about many different facets today. And hopefully I'll be able to do live streams from my cell phone for a little bit until we come up with a solution. But I got a hell of a lot of weight on my shoulders. And not doing these shows is not an option. Yeah, the phone is working. The audio, I would imagine, I know the phone's audio comes through pretty good. And we got the truck in the garage today. And when they went to bring it in the garage, the truck wouldn't drive forward. They don't know if that's the transfer case, giving us the new transfer case we had installed at another place. But the actuator itself, which switches the gears, didn't fit properly. And so there's two theories. One is the system shut down because it's not operating properly. But the other theory is that the transfer case is not a good transfer case. Now, I got a 30-day warranty on that transfer case as far as I know. But, you know, they could try to blame me for it and not, you know, honor the warranty, right? Because it's a secondhand transfer case. And so if it doesn't work, I'm not sure how to approach this. Do I get my old one put back in so I'm mobile again temporarily? Or do I get that one, take it out, bring it in, and then start looking for another transfer case, leave my vehicle at the garage for who knows how long? It's a total disaster because we don't have a lot of money to work with, right? And so a mistake like this is devastating to this operation. They're not arguing regarding the refund quite yet because it's in a garage. Tomorrow I'll have an answer on whether the transfer case is good or not. And so at that point, I'm just saying this is how it could play out. And so I got to be very careful because we're running on a shoestring budget for the last couple of years. And we can't keep up with all the issues we're having because the equipment is very old. We've been at this a very long time and we're not able to keep the maintenance up. Like we're keeping the maintenance up, but it's always too late. And that means more things are left broken down for the research. And so we have 16 trips on the ocean. And the species, the truck is a Hummer H3. And the species that we're looking at, we're seeing just a 3 to 5% survival rate of the hatchlings. We haven't seen any migratory birds from the 46 million migratory birds that are supposed to be here. But we've seen 3 Arctic tern that showed up. These are very small birds, but very distinct. And so we had pictures of all 3 of them. And a few days ago, I might have seen 7 or 8 more. But that's a far cry from 46 million migratory birds. This is the biggest seabird migratory spot on the entire planet. I hope the transfer case, we just paid $1,500 for the second-hand transfer case. And the other one, of course, was lugging around a boat for years and years, and lugging around a trailer full of all kinds of equipment for research for years and years. And we damaged the transfer case, which is, they checked out the engine's fine. They checked out the transmission is fine. They let the oil out of the transfer case, and it was full of incredible amount of shavings. So right now, we're not seeing many insects, of course, and we see that throughout North America. I noticed at higher altitude, we are seeing a few more insects, but not at the lower altitude. And one of the reasons of that could be when the radioactive plumes, the clouds of radioactive material, come across the Pacific, for instance, when they hit the Rocky Mountain, they'll lose a lot of their payloads in order to rise over the mountain and continue to the interior of the Northern Hemisphere. And I'm on the East Coast, Corey, of Canada, not the West Coast anymore. And so when the clouds come in and hit the West Coast, the Cascades, the Rocky Mountains, they lose a lot of their payloads. A lot of that washes back down to the coastline. And the rest of it gets hung up in lakes and estuaries and streams and rivers and everything else, and communities and everything else in between, right? But the coastlines get a horrific amount of radiation because they're exposed twice a day when the tide drops. So those species got wiped out, and we went up and documented it year after year. Okay, so because there's a lot to try. I'm just doing this kind of like to get a lot of stuff out there today. But I'm pretty sure I'll be streaming like this again tomorrow night, just to keep some momentum going. And apologize to everybody because it's not the regular time and nothing has been normal since last Thursday. And then today, like last night, we had tried to do a stream. And so obviously I was able to set up the stream for the normal system. But today, I can't bring up that window where you would, put all your information in to do the preamble. But there is a preamble, and I showed that in a short 8-minute video this morning. There is a preamble window shows up, but it doesn't register in my videos or live streams. I don't know what it is. And so I can't put that information into my operating system because you could be giving them direct access to my operating system, right? And so that's very worrisome. And YouTube says there's nothing going on their end. And of course, YouTube has given the keys away to the industry. So you kind of assume you're talking to the industry when you're talking to YouTube in that chat. So currently, Japan is running an incredible scam on humanity and the 8 million species by claiming that the tanks are the only radiation that has come out of Fukushima and that it's contained. And so if you go back into my playlist, if you're not familiar with this subject, you'll find detailed videos on many facets of Fukushima. But you'll also find 500 hour and a half, 2 hour presentations on my site. And my site's only a couple of years old. And my other site had 1,600 2 hour presentations on it, plus all the research and expeditions and everything. And they disappeared that when we were looking for spiders last year. And so, in desperation today, I said, well, I can stream from my cell phone. We'll come out with kind of a normal. Now, the idea was to cover what's been happening. So tomorrow night, if I do this, I'm going to cover a whole bunch of headlines. And if anybody's been around for a long time, back in the original days, this is how I'd done a lot of my videos. Back in those days, cameras were like 1 megapixel or 1 million pixels or something like that. And audio was really terrible, right? But we streamed 7 days a week and we covered the headlines. And we progressed till we got professional equipment to try to educate the population on this topic, right? And so we've been at this a very long time. We spent 6 years doing research expeditions from Vancouver, British Columbia to Alaska, 4 to 5 months on the ocean at a time. And what we discovered and documented, and which you will find up on my website, thenuclearproctologist.org, is an extinction level event. And that's not a maybe, that's not an opinion, right? That's a fact. We went back year after year, the species didn't come back. And so normally a glass of ocean water would have 1 billion creatures, eggs and larvae and small fries. And it's considered the soup of life. And so when the coastline didn't reseed itself, that can only mean one thing, that we broke the soup of life, that broke the food chain in every way imaginable. And what I done was repeated year after year after year and looking for a consensus. And it got worse every year. It was less and less. There wasn't very many. So for instance, there was around 700 algae, and we documented 7 or 8 species instead of 700 in the tidal zones. When we're talking about the tidal zones, there was around 74 species of sponges. Each species came in multiple brilliant colors. So you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of different colors amongst the 74 species. There was around 78 species of starfish. Each species came in incredible, vibrant, beautiful, wonderful colors. And the ones that we found, I think we found like 5 species of starfish over 6 years left. And they were all big, ugly looking tumors, basically. There was around 480 species of worms in the tidal zones. We found 2 species. They were any species we did find wasn't in abundance. It was very lethargic looking, very weak. There was, in the algae, the 700 species of algae was around 5,500 invertebrates without the backbones. So they're like little shrimp. And these were unique species identified by research institutions. And so then there was all kinds of clams, shellfish. In clams, there's little necks and manillas and razorback clams. There's the gooey ducks. There's the oysters. There was incredible diversity of scallops, different species of scallops. And periwinkles was like a big snails. There was mussels, mollusks. It was absolutely stunning. And we'll show a lot of pictures of that. If you go look at my die-off videos we've done at least once a month here, I take you through those expeditions. You can also find that stuff up at my website, thenuclearproctologist.org. and um, and so at the tidal zones, there's around 20,000 species of insects that would live in harmony with the high tide and the low tide. So a low tide species would venture down into the low tide, and when the tide came back in, they would hang out at the high tide. They were wiped out. And so they were wiped out, and there was also many bird species were dependent upon the tidal zones. Many different varieties of animals would venture into the tidal zones nocturnally after dark, right? And we noticed the forests were silent. We noticed the smell was gone from the oceans, particularly at low tide. And, I've been vilified and demonized, marginalized, and attacked. And horrific attacks upon my character, horrific smears. And if you search Dana Durnford up on YouTube, you're going to find just incredibly vile public relation videos denouncing me, but without any documentation. These are just horrific assaults. This is character assassination. And they succeeded. They have assassinated my character. My reputation is completely assassinated by this industry. This industry, they only think 12 hours ahead. They don't think a month ahead or a year ahead or 1,000 years ahead. They only think 12 hours ahead at best. And I'm not a bad person for being honest, but that's what they got me made out to be. And so it's very difficult. I can see why not many people do what I'm doing, because you're up against a monolithic, extraordinarily, unbelievably funded organization known as the nuclear industry. I'm just putting this out here because we're just trying to talk our way through a reintroduction of the videos today, because if you're not familiar with the subject, I've been hacked over the last couple of days. We can't stream our normal 2-hour educational programs from this incredible complicated system. It's complicated in the context of it's a legitimate system, right? And so I've hacked my laptops in order so that I can't access the stream page. So we're doing this from my cell phone. And I was super glad when I saw that this was going to work. I was hoping I could set up the preamble with my cell phone and then access it through my laptop, but apparently you can't, right? And that way we'll be able to go back to the regular streams. Okay, so we've done major research expeditions. Fukushima is an extinction event. And I'm not saying that to be alarmist or salacious or anything else. I'm saying it because that's the documentation that is unassailable, it's incontestable. And we provide a ridiculous amount of documentation each year, over 100,000 pieces of documentation, not counting all the other common stuff that we use for the typical documentation. And we cover the news cycles 5 days a week. We were up until recently. And so now we're totally off our balance, and we're just, imagine an industry where it's incredibly evil and there's absolutely no resistance, there's no opposition, and that's nuclear. There's no one out there saying, hey, don't you can't go being that evil. There's got to be some checks and balances. There's no checks and balances. The International Atomic Energy Agency is standing alongside of South Korea's assertion and Taiwan and China's and Japan's assertions that there's only 2.2 grams of tritium, of all things, that got out of 4 melted reactors and 8 missing fuel pools that detonated. And so you're talking multi-millions of tons. and or pounds rather. You're talking around 6 to 10 million pounds per building. And the evidence also clearly suggests that the common spin fuel pool lost its inventory and maybe Reactor 6 too, because the pictures that were released in 2016 were redacted. So they got me shadow banned for a long time, but now they got me shadow banned where we can't even set up a stream from either one of our laptops or from any browsers. But yet I'm able to do it from my cell phone. So I don't know if that tells anybody anything. And they're monitoring everything I'm telling you. And so in one way I have to be a little bit careful of how much information I get out. But on the other hand, it's absurd that we can't have a conversation. I can't just be forward with all facets of the story, right? And on top of that, here we are, we got the truck is in the garage, and it looks like we might still have huge issues with that for another while. We might have to take that transfer case out, bring it back, try to get a refund, and find another transfer case to put in. It's almost too much to bear. And I couldn't sleep last night. I was up all, as you know, so I was at this all day yesterday trying to get a stream up. I was up all night trying to get a stream. Slept for a couple of hours. I got back up to start again, and I couldn't set up a preamble. That was now blocked on all of my laptops and my browsers. And so I can't stream on Rumble. The same thing has happened to me on Rumble. And what happens is, if they do it to me, who else are they going to do it to? How often are they going to do it to everybody else? And how many people are out there who don't have a voice or is not able to comprehend the enormity of what's going on to them? Because they're going to export this misery to other public relation firms so they can. And so ultimately all they end up doing is destroying themselves and humanity for a paycheck on Fridays. And that is the most frightening facet of the story. We've seen this so many times over the last number of years, right? Where they're just, they're idiot ruthless. They're ruthless as an idiot would be. But these are supposed to be extremely educated, unbelievably articulated, and well-funded people, and their contempt for humanity and for a debate seems to know no bound, because they can't argue with honesty. You can only argue with a controlled opposition, and this is how society has been working for the nuclear industry for 80 years. And so obviously I'm frustrated, and I just wanted to come out because a lot of you people have been around for quite a while, and I felt you deserved to kind of get the bigger picture of what's really going on. And you can also, it's easier for you to comprehend how much unbelievable stress I'm actually under. And there's nothing I can do about it because this is a life, to fight for the humanity and the 8 million species. That's kind of a calling, right? Because we know the enormity of the issue. And we can't just walk away. For one thing, there's nobody else to fill in the gap. And second off, we do the best job of telling the story. And so it's our obligation, we're obligated to tell the story and to try to educate the population in order to have that debate, which has never existed for 80 years. But our time had come. We were winning the battle, and they assassinated us, basically. And so who knows what else they're up to as we're talking right now in order to seal my coffin, so to speak. Because, I only get a couple of hundred people on the show, ultimately over 24 hours. So I don't understand why I'm such a threat to these people and why they're so disconnected that they think, these public relation firms, they owe me their jobs, because without me, they wouldn't even have a job. There is nobody else of there's nobody else that's going to fill in this gap and have this conversation or do the research, more importantly. Yeah, thank you, everybody. And no, it was just like, because we had a lot of explaining to do today because of the way things have played out since last Thursday, right? And I do my best thinking when I'm talking about the subject when we're live, right? Because we normally bring up all the documentation for our assertions. And I don't hide away from anybody. I never hid away from everybody. I'm very open. My phone number is always there. My emails are always there, etc., etc. And, I'm going to do whatever I can do to keep this stream going, to keep this conversation going, despite the enormous amount of persuasion and monetary that is and authority that is used against the truth, right? The truth is their enemy, and they act appropriately, right? They're vicious about anybody trying to have a conversation. And I know that today is not the best video on Fukushima, and it's not supposed to be about, per se, all about Fukushima. It's about me articulating, and unfortunately I got to give away the game plan in order to have that conversation. And we know they're paying attention. And we know they're mocking us. We know they're yucking it up and enjoying themselves. And I don't mind that, because if they weren't here doing that to me, they're home raping their puppies, right? And we know that's true, because that's the mentality it takes to do what they're doing. You have to have that. That's the only personality that would take that particular job, see? So here we are. We got huge issues in every direction. Everything is breaking down. Everything is screwing up. We got die off all around us. We got the industry coming out. And again, so now the garage is telling me that the transfer case might be a blank, right, that we installed. And the engine is working fine, transmission's fine, but wouldn't drive it in. So they don't know if the vehicle went into a safety mode, or, because we had a tow truck bring it up yesterday, right? They tried to bring it in the garage today to put the front wheel bearings and just do the adjustment to the transfer case, and the truck won't move. It drove a few feet and it stopped. And so that scares the shit out of me. But what's the other option that I got again? I don't have another option, right? So I'm going to have to deal with that. At the same time, I'm ran into the ground trying to understand how to get back online, get the normal streams up and running. And then, because this is not tenable. Really? They're just going to delete me from humanity? I prefer they came and assassinated me. Let's at least have some fucking guts here. Don't be cowards and do what you're doing to me. Just kill me and get it over with. But don't do this. Don't be like that to me. Don't do the coward thing where you assassinate, like you did when you assassinated my character over increments over the last decades. I'm talking to the nuclear industry, obviously. And so what I'm trying to do is, I don't have CAA. I don't have anything. Look, this operation is running on knuckles, okay? And I'm running out of knuckles, and there's just a couple of people donating. And so we're just unbelievably fortunate to even make it this far, because the industry has isolated me so effectively. And now they feel, and one of the big concerns, of course, is when they isolate you like this, they take away your voice, you have to worry they're going to assassinate you, right? Because that's one of the typical steps they'll take, is they'll isolate you, cut you off from any support, and then you mysteriously dies, right? That's the normal procedure for these people. They got the whole planet hoodwinked, except for you people, the ones that are following this narrative. And I provide the documentation all the time. They haven't got you hoodwinked. And so getting rid of me is still not going to end the truth, right? And so tomorrow they're going to be in the garage, and we're going to find out tomorrow whether the transfer case is shot or not. If the transfer case is a dud, oh man, I still got a refund. I should still be able to get a refund on it for 30 days, right? So still a few weeks left on the ability to get a refund. And but it's just a disaster. Okay, so I'm just kind of repeating myself at this stage, so I'm not going to keep doing that. I posted an 8-minute video this morning of what's going on with me trying to start up do the preamble for my live shows. I spent 22 hours uploading a 1-hour video that finally showed up this morning. That is from my studio, or one of the regular videos. And I've been just literally tortured trying to get a stream to work all day yesterday and today. And now I find out that no matter which browser or computer I'm using, I have the same issue where that, as I showed screen captures of it in the 8-minute video this morning. And so I'm not sure how to get around that one. But yet I can set up a live stream with my cell phone on the same account. And who do I go to the police and see if the police can work this out? I guess that's about the only option I got left now. And see if they can track down who's hacked me, and hopefully we can prosecute them, because I guess that's what I should be doing tomorrow or the next day, is bring my laptop up and give it to the police and see if they can find it. And they're pretty good at that stuff. They could probably find it. Okay, so the weekend, James Lucid donated $260, and we used it for the actuator. We ordered a new actuator, and we used it for a tow truck, right? And then today, Sue S., who you know now recently in the comments section, donated another $300. And thank you again, Sue, my goodness. And Stephen Young donated $50 2 days ago. And just we never got a chance to thank him for that because of the way the stream has been denied. And I know Stephen's been around for so long, right? And so hopefully he watches this and figures out why we're not doing the streams the way we like to do it. And it looks like my cell phone is going to die because I forgot to plug it in. We still got the 10% left, so. It doesn't matter because we're going to end the stream right here. I just wanted to put out a video, that's 48 minutes in, so that's more than enough. I'll make sure the phone is charged tomorrow night. And tomorrow night, I'm just going to ignore the chat room, per se. And we're just going to go through a whole bunch of headlines like we're doing right here until we figure out how to get the stream back up and running. And then we'll get the stream up and running, of course. So I'm going to have to format one of my computers, I guess, to see if that'll work. And we lost a hard drive yesterday too, right? And that was an important hard drive that they killed. And so I still got to, I can't spend any money until I find out tomorrow with the truck. We can't get the boat in the water. And the whole system is just a disaster. And we've had a lot of disasters over these years that we've crawled out of and got back on our feet and dusted ourselves off and crawled back into the mix and got back into it again, right? That's what we'll do this time. That's what I guess we'll do the next time. But, how the public relations firm is not going to have anybody to pick on. Have to get rid of me. So I mean, let's face it, right? I employ a lot of scumbags in the nuclear industry. Okay, well, we'll see everybody on the next video. I'll keep you updated the best I can do. Is all I can do. And I'll remind people that you really, really need to donate at this time. We're in real issues right now, and I'm having to work 10 times harder than I had to work before. And just, I don't mind that, but I do need support, right? So those who have supported me, thank you. It's very, very humbling. And to those that might, it's hard to comprehend how important it is. And to those that can't but wish they could, bless your heart. And I know where you're coming from. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. And I'll give you some updates. Most likely it's going to be this way. I'll try to do something a bit better. Thank you, everybody. Hugs for everybody. And we had a poll. Let's check the poll out before I close it down. Did the nuclear industry hack my systems in desperation to stop people from exposing their crimes? And that's exactly what they've done. So I'll end that poll right now. I'll do a quick shout out actually before we give it up, because that always makes me feel a bit better. Dana Nasana. Hi, Dana. Joe, which is 239 Giant. Hi, Joe. Adam, the Mushroom Messiah. Neil, PBS Lover. P.I. Colette, Snakes and Doggies. Hi, everybody. Corey. If I miss anybody, my apologies. Port Angeles, Don Vincent. James Lucid. Thank you, James. And anybody I missed, my apologies. Another CG. It still feels good to get a stream out, though, because we're not out of the game yet. Let's hope they don't hack that. Adrian Johnson. I know Stephen Young will Wonder Boy later. And let me just double check. We're almost through the names here. And because it's an impromptu live stream at a very unusual time, I know a lot of normal people didn't make it in. So hugs for everybody who finds me later. Hinder Peter, P. Haig, and extra shout out for Sue. Susan, which is, she puts her name as Sue, I believe. My mind's a bit scattered here today, my apologies. One Sky. And anybody I miss again, my apologies. So I'll update you tomorrow night. If I do an update tomorrow night, we'll do it at the regular time at 10, which is my normal time. Because now that I know I can at least do this kind of a stream, and because I can just read off the headlines, it's the same thing. We're still having a conversation, right? So that's what really matters. It'll be nice if I could put it all on the screen, but you can't do it with a cell phone, unfortunately. And so we'll deal with it. Did I get everybody? Okay. Okay, everybody. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. If you made it this far, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. And I'm sorry it's not the regular show. We'll see what we can do. We got a lot. I got a lot going on. All kinds of things are just screwed up. And so I'm just going to chip away one piece at a time till we resolves it. Yeah, Finnegan, glad you got sorted. No, I never got it sorted out. We're streaming from my cell phone. They got me hacked on my computers, and they killed one of my hard drives, and they denied us the ability to do a live show. And another thing is I'm probably going to have to buy software so I can do the shows normal and then convert them, crunch them down, and keep the quality and upload them. So that's on the agenda for tomorrow. And we'll see. I'll update everybody tomorrow night. And hopefully, I come up with something. Hopefully, the truck works out tomorrow. Like right now, I haven't got any hope for anything. So I'll just keep chipping away at all the problems until we get some kind of normalcy back, and that could take a while. Yeah, most hard drives can be recovered. That's right. I still haven't given up on my hard drive, but I can't get it to work on any of the computers. It doesn't register on any of the computers. No, that's a big issue. Have a great night. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. We'll update everybody tomorrow night at the regular time. And for the nuclear industry, like seriously, you already got me censored to just a few hundred people. Please remove the hack on my system. That's completely uncalled for. Look, you need people like me out there because you can't just run rampant on the planet. There has to be checks and balances. And so please remove the hacks you got against my computers. It's completely disproportionate. And look, I can't fix it. You can, right? And it's just not fair to do what you're doing. In a land of compassion, you should take that step and remove those hacks you got in my computers. Or I guarantee you, it ain't going to get nice in the future, because what you're doing is you're setting my resolve, and there's nothing worse than resolve. You have a great day, folks. Have a great day tomorrow. Hugs for everybody. Don't forget to donate if you can. Links are in the bottom of the description. If you can't find it, go to my other videos. You'll find it. And it's time to unite. There's not that many of us. It's time to unite. And it's time for us to take back our planet and at least have a conversation. And the industry needs to take those hacks off my computer. You can't go doing stuff like that. It's completely disproportionate. And I mean, you hide away and do it, really, and you call yourself a man. How does that work? Take care, folks.